Today we're talking ceramic coatings and basically what to do when you think it's near end of life, or you're having issues, problems, and you think it's somewhat dead, or you think there's an issue for maybe paid for installation with the installation, or you've done it yourself as a bit of a DIY and you think, have I done something wrong? This coating doesn't seem to be acting as I would imagine it would. Basically, this last week I've washed my car for only the second time in 2 months contact wash wise. First one after about 4 weeks, and then again it's been about 2 weeks since the last one. So basically what I found is I can go about that period of time. The initial month were okay. They were only very light dust pollen around, wasn't raining, no traffic film, so it was not required. I was just doing it once a week and that seemed to be fine. What I've done is after a month ceramic coating, I've seen some significant deterioration in water behaviour in that time. So basically door down, what I was getting was some sheeting, whereas the rest of it were pretty heavily beaded. So that difference stood out quite a lot. So basically I've rectified that, and then just 2 weeks later same things happened. So today we're going to be discussing what's caused it in my particular case, other cases, what you could do, initial remedies, and then the steps of basically severity as to how far you have to go to try and revive it if it is possible. If not, we're going to look at maybe, has there been an issue with installation or an issue with the coating. So in this particular instance then, what I've done is I've done a pre-wash snow foam. In my case I've used Gyeon foam, which is this one here, the latest one from Gyeon. It's their Q2M Gyeon foam. This is the latest branded bottle, if you have any. That's what you get now. And then in this particular instance, I've also, so I'm doing that at roughly anything between 9 or 15 to 1, depending on what I need basically. So I'm not, they recommend don't label anything down to 5 to 1, which you can do. Using my snow foam lance, anything between right up to 15, I get really good thick snow foam that I can layer on top of each other and not add any issues. If I want a bit more cleaning power, generally I'll go down to 9 to 1 and then add 5-10 ml of Koch Chemie's Green Star to that, just to help give it a bit more of a alkaline punch and get some of those road bugs and traffic film and stuff like that off. So it helps lift that sort of thing when I think I'm going to be doing a pre-rinse, a bit of a snow foam and then a rinse off, which in my case it's not just a rinse to get the foam off and that's calling it a day. It's basically working bottom up, being very methodical, taking every bit of foam off and then doing a rinse top down then, and that's how you can try and ensure that you actually get in contact and you're using the pressure washer to do that bit of mechanical work that you won't otherwise be getting from the foam, just helping lift and loosen that stuff. And generally, I can go weeks if weather's good, just doing that without touching it, and it's all fine. I say without touching it, I've got a DI water system, so a lot of people final rinse only, or you can choose to do basically however much you want with that. I've been using and trialling various different things, right up to filling snow foam lance up with DI water, using DI water for the full wash process, including any rinses, foaming, everything, and final washes, just basically trialling it, looking at cost per wash, how much of a difference does it make, do I get any streaking or marks and drips still that are causing water spotting, say front mirrors on side doors. So yeah, I'll probably make another video about that another time, just to show my particular setup, what I'm doing, how well it works, maybe work out a bit of a cost per wash and give people an idea of, if you want to get into that sort of thing, how much it's going to cost you. So yeah, in this case I've done my 15 to 1, I think I did, with a 5 ml Green Star for this one. Done the foam, let it sit. We're in a late afternoon, very cool, sort of 15 degrees in the shade, so no issues there. Dwell time were basically, I just let it reject it, so all glass got coatings on, all vehicle ceramic coated, so what it did, it ejected a lot of that snow foam anyway, so I pretty much waited till it ejected it all. It would have then, even in the cold temperatures, started to dry off, even if it's just wind sort of air drying it, so I've then washed it all off. What I've seen is basically this deterioration in water behaviour, where I'm getting a sheeting sort of mid door down, especially behind the front wheels on both sides, So that panel, and then both doors, and then again rear quarters, same thing. All the boot or tailgate area where the aero seems to collect a lot of that road film and things, that were the same at the bottom under the registration plate. So in this case, couldn't get rid of that. What I've chosen to do is then do a proper mechanical wash. So in my case, I have used Bilthamber's Auto Wash, which is my go-to. You can use it anything up to 2,000 to 1, what it says here. I've used it at 500 to 1, 1,000 to 1, 1,500 and 2,000. Generally I'm at that 1 to 2,000-ish range, depending more on, I'll probably always use the 5mm, but how much water I'm putting in my bucket is the determinant factor really, usually. So that's my go-to. Did that, as you would with the mitt as normal. Did a full mechanical wash on the entire car, and then in my case, luckily this time, that's solved my issue. It was basically just slight clogging of my coating, so anything that's got in there with the rain that's been worse last couple of weeks between that month. This last 2 weeks we've had a lot worse weather, so I've not been able to go that long again this time without it. So yeah, in this case, pure mechanical wash, shampoo only, and that's done the trick for this. So it's unclogged that coating, lifted some of that embedded contamination that's in paint. Again, then when I'm doing my rinse off with the pressure washer, I'm using a 60-degree nozzle and a 15. I sort of go between the two. I've nothing currently. I've just got a new pressure washer, so I'm sort of dealing with what I've got at the minute before I make any changes possibly, and maybe get some different, looking at that 25 to 40-degree range where a lot of people like to sit, and I've sat in past with different pressure washers. So generally for any targeted washing, I'm down at the 15, and maybe for the wheels, and then I'm out to fanning it out to 60, doing more of a rinse, or if that's what I've sort of need in that situation, that's what I tend to be doing. Yeah, so in this case, I've left that. Leaving that, water behaviour is absolutely returned to normal. I can see nice, lovely beading all the way down doors, behind arches and everything, rear quarters, all back as should be, really. I've let it air dry then. Overnight, or pretty soon after actually that I'd washed, the rain started to fall, so it rained all night. Rained again next morning, and I've basically gone out, done the school run there and back, and then I've captured some footage now which I'll overlay. So this is just static basically on the drive. This is what you've seen, and this is how the water's now sat and behaving on the panel. So as you can see, all behind those sort of front wheels, both doors, and then over rear wheel, rear quarter as well, water behaviour's turned sort of back to normal, and it's just sat there beaded. Even though it is dirty rainwater and there will be some traffic film on there, it's first day, so it's not as bad, and it's not had time to dry. That's the first time it's got wet, stayed wet, and had a film applied, so luckily that's done the trick. In this case, I suppose issues that wouldn't be resolved by that, or if you're worse than I have, say you don't go, I'm washing minimum once a week. Sometimes if I'm just doing an absolute rinse only, and sometimes I don't even foam it if it's just, it hasn't rained in between and it's dusty or pollen or something like that in summer. Maybe every third or fourth day I might just do rinse only, DI water, let it air dry, and that is literally returning it, just getting that surface dust off, and that returns it to something like what I would deem acceptable, and sort of makes me happy that it's nice and shiny, and all those hours spent machine polishing it, as you get to see your rewards really, and that nice glossy metallic paint coming through. If that hasn't done it, so say you've got a similar issue to me, you've done a simple contact wash, or you're doing a contact wash every week maybe, and you're still seeing this deterioration, I should mention that in my case I don't use any drying aids because I don't contact dry. I don't use any toppers, nor have I since the coating were installed. Bearing in mind it's only been on 2 months, but that could still make a difference to water behaviour. If you're using, as I have, a Gyeon coating on mine, if you're then using Gyeon can coat on a regular basis after your wash process, and using that to sort of mask the properties of your maybe deteriorated ceramic, are you going to see this? That's probably, maybe not, marginal. You'd have to make that call. Do you use toppers? If you do, we're using a weekly, using a monthly, 3 monthly. When you see a deterioration, is that the topper itself, or is it the topper and the coating that's gone? Again, I'm 2 months in. If you're 2 years into a 3-year coating, maybe you're in an entirely different situation to me. If you're washing weekly and looking after it, maybe it should be expected to, be still well alive at that point. If you're washing on a, say, monthly basis, or less frequent than that, in a monthly, 2 monthly, 3 monthly, you're not looking after it. You've maybe been through automated car washes that are using super high alkaline, 12, 13 plus on pH scales, and those chemicals can be really deteriorating a ceramic coating. You go into maybe a drive-through and car wash where they're using some of these TFR replacements now. They're using brick and concrete acid, so that is going to rapidly deteriorate your coating. If you're going through there thinking it's better than using traditional roller car wash where the brushes are going to damage your paint and cause a lot of scratching and swirling, then can be better than that in terms of that actual marring, swirling or deterioration of your paint and causing that haze maybe. Yes, you'll save some of those issues not going through the rollers and the brushes and doing a contact wash, but the super strong chemicals that these guys are using, they're going to AutoSmart maybe for the first set of products, they're getting it all branded, and then they're buying cheap brick and concrete acid, replacing it in those same very drums or the pump sprayers that they bought, and you think you're getting a decent quality of service and top of the line chemicals for sort of that industrial market where it's a mass market's name, and that's not what you're getting at all. So you need to be very careful with those. And a lot of the times what you'll see is if you've got any chrome on your car, so if you've got any chrome trim around your doors, maybe your badges, something like that, you'll see a deterioration or a discoloration in those. They can be signs that they're using maybe some of the advertising, or they're using something like a TFR, but a super strong dilution that maybe you wouldn't use at home. If you're going to use a 100 to 1 maybe at home, maybe they're using a 50 to 1, a 20 to 1, God forbid a 10 to 1 maybe, which, when you're sort of talking that level, I've done that in the past using 10 and 20 to 1 with a TFR that I have at home, and you're talking instant stripping of any ceramic spray sealants, spray waxes, anything that's super durable, that's 3 to 6, 9 months spray on. Those 10 to 1 at a TFR will knock it right off in literally seconds. You can wipe on, not even spray on, and rinse off, and that water behaviour is completely gone, and that will be stripped. So you need to be mindful of those things if that's what you're doing. If you're not doing any of those things and you're really looking after it, again, next steps is you need to be deciding, are you going to go higher up the pH scale? So if I'm at a pH neutral using a foam at the right dilution, my draw rate on my Canon's probably 7-ish% at full draw. And again, that's still more than enough for super thick foam, even at 15 to 1 with that particular product. So, you're talking, you could keep with the Gyeon foam as I'm doing in my case, or whatever you're using, say you're using a Kochchemi GSF or something like that, or an active foam, a super foam. You can go up them pH scales if you want, doing it that way, or if you want to stick with like a Gyeon foam and add something like Green Star, which is a pH 12.5 itself. So once you start getting past 10 mil, 20 mil, up to 30 mil, you are going to change the composition of your pre-wash and how alkaline that is and how effective it is at removing especially bugs and road film and things like that. So you can go that way. You can always go to another brand like Built Amber Autoform, Built Amber Touchless. That's a good option. There too, you're talking for sort of those both Built Amber products. One's pH 12, one's pH 13. If you're running at sort of 4% PIR, they're a really good option, a really strong option to go right top end alkaline. So if you're doing that, you can always then get a stronger shampoo if you're wanting to do a bit of a stronger contact wash as well, and maybe go the other way. One of the fan favourites always seems to be Capra Reset if you're looking to do something specifically like resetting a coating, unclogging a coating. You can, if you've tried that top end alkaline wise and you're looking at getting rid of road film and bugs, then if that doesn't work, you can totally switch and go to acid side. If you're going more acidic, you're looking at something like a dedicated water spot remover, a mineral remover, or an acidic contact shampoo maybe that you're looking at. You're not going to be as low, when you go in 12, 13 alkaline wise, you don't go down to 1 and 2 generally, you're more at a 5-ish for these sorts of products when you're doing a firm contact wash with those things. So again, they act on a different method basically of trying to remove those. So you've tried the alkaline stuff, that is going to remove, as I've said, road film and bugs and things like that, guts and any sort of bird droppings you've got. It's really good at lifting and getting rid of that when you're doing a pre-wash. If you still can't do it and you're going acidic, like I said, you can use dedicated spray on water, spot removers or mineral deposit removers. And if you're going to do that, you need to be very careful about application, direct light, follow manufacturer's instructions. That's probably more of a spray-on, wipe-off product and doing it more of a targeted basis, really. You're not going to do the whole car generally with those. That'd be more of a Capra Reset shampoo sort of instance. When you have used these super strong acidic products, again, you're probably better off then washing the entire vehicle again, or at least rinsing it over. You're going to be wanting to look for that water behaviour anyway, so you might as well do that and check to see if it has done. You know, you're constantly going to be testing, say after every step, if you're doing multi-step cleaning processes, to try and figure out something like this and get rid of it, you're more than likely going to be rinsing off every time anyway. So that's always a good option. If you then, you know, you're really out of it and you've done that, you can always go more of a dedicated, specific cleaning route. So you can try dedicated fallout removers. You can certainly try something like tar and glue remover if you want to go that way as well. And you're thinking, oh, that's, you know, say you've spotted a bit of contamination, it's been on a long time, and that route of sort of inquiry and see if that works, you can always go down that line. And further to that, if then, you know, we're never going to recommend that you fully clear a ceramic coated car, especially if it's a newly coated one and you think it's still got plenty of life in it, you just maybe think there's some issues. But you can certainly look at clay towel or some sort of softer clay media that's not going to be as damaging, potentially marring your paint if that's something that you're worried about on a newer coating. If you've done all that then, and it's all to no avail, no joy, none of those things have actually worked for you, what are next steps? Like I've said before, if you're 2 months in like I am to what you think is going to be a multi-year coating, you should, hopefully, following these steps, be able to sort something like that. If you can and you've got a specific use case or you're struggling and you know you've got no one to reach out to, leave us a comment down below. Try and give me a bit of background of, you know, how long it's been on, who applied it, what sort of specific issue you're having, and might be able to help you out. I'll certainly respond, and hopefully we can get a bit of something together for you. So if you're not in that case and you know you say you're a 2 year into a 3 year coating like I mentioned before, and you think it possibly could be end of life, then you've got other options then. If you're not using any toppers or sealants or anything else to mask that behaviour, one cheap sort of masking option, if you're not willing to do anything both yourself or financially getting into doing that sort of thing, again, if you're paying a professional, you can always use some sort of spray coating, whether that's a spray on and rinse off or a wipe on wipe off or any of those really, you know, say a ceramic spray coating, a spray wax, anything like that. You could even consider doing a full base wax, you know, using something like the that I've got here. So I've got a built-amber double speed wax, which is always a great option when you're talking cost per application, how long this thing's going to last you, and the quality of water behaviour and durability you get out of this. You know, it's pretty much unmatched. People always love the old Fuso as well, depending how you can get your hands on that one. So the old Fuso, or you can always go down the other route. We've got a bit of an old British favourite, depends where you are, Auto Glim, you know, very popular here. You could use something like this. I'll probably end up doing a full review on these and talking through different qualities and why you'd use one over another. And these products are really quite different to say they're offering a same, you know, protection for your paint. But then once you've both applied them, it's a bit different. You know, once you start doing this application process, again, the application process for this, super easy. It's literally a spray on, wipe off, really easy to work with, real nice buff. You get a slickness as soon as you used it. Whereas when you're looking at something like the old Turtle Wax Seal and Shine, this is actually spray wax with polymers in, so really super durable. But what you're getting is both during the application process and behaviour wise afterwards, both how it looks on the paint is very different to the other one. Another one that you can always consider is Sonax's Extreme Brilliant Shine Detailer. Again, a real old fan favourite. This product's been out a very long time now, really popular in Europe. Found its way to the US eventually, and you know, everybody seems to love it. It does have its drawbacks, so if you're looking for something that's really easy to apply, this is certainly not that. This can be very grabby on application, difficult to remove if you're not used to that sort of thing. So if you're a bit of a first timer and you know you're just tipping your toe in water with these sorts of things, possibly not the best thing to be going to. But the water behaviour on this, if you're a particular, you know, you've got a bit of a liking for beading, you know, you're not going to probably find anything that's better water behaviour from the beadability and that sort of hydrophobic properties that you're really looking for if that's what you like. If you like a beading, more of a sheet. The durability of this thing is absolutely terrific. So you can easily look at 3 to 6 months depending on conditions. Again, if I am drying, I have other people's cars, my cars, I've got a Sonax Extreme Brilliant Shine Detailer mixed at 3 to 1, which is again very popular. People like to do that, makes it a lot easier to work with. both feathers detailer, you're going to lose some of that durability. You get really good hydrophobic still between washes if you're using it on a more frequent basis. You're not doing a 3 to 6 month application. If you're using it on a weekly, bi-weekly, maybe a monthly, depending on how long it lasts for you, really good, and really good as a drying aid. So it gives you that bit of a lubrication. As the car's still wet, it waters it down even more, and you just get that nice slickness. So you've not got the tackiness with this one. It's not as difficult to remove, and if you've already got a wet panel because you've not dried it yet, and you're already, this is watered down at 3 to 1, which is obviously 1 part product, 3 parts water for this. So you're looking at about 25% original product. It's already better to work with at that, and I've used this as more of a, sometimes I use this as a glass cleaner, or if I've used a glass cleaner I might then put this over the top of it just to see that different water behaviour. I've tried it on pan roofs, stuff like that. And when you get up and get in the car, first thing in the morning, if it's been raining, you get really nice hydrophobics, real small, tight beading, nice contact angles. So this is something to consider with that sort of thing as well. So you can either go down that route, or if you're after something more of a, when we're talking drying aid with the Sonax BSD, if you like that or you prefer that, or maybe you're wanting to go to that level of application really, there's other products out there that will maybe cater to the needs of your hydrophobics. Say you use the Gyeon coating like I have. If you've got then Gyeon wet coat and you're going to use that as a bit of a topper due to deterioration, you're more likely to get a product from the same company that has somewhat similar hydrophobics. So you don't want to be using it just on the affected areas and then having different hydrophobic behaviour top and bottom of your dorsey like you've been doing. That's why it stands out like a sore thumb, and that's why you've seen this issue in the first place. So if that's the thing and that bothers you, then that's a real easy application. That is literally spray on, rinse off. So what you'll see with that is a bit of a white milky residue as you're rinsing off. Once you've got rid of all that and it's just pure water you can see coming off, you can be happy that you've got rid of it. And if you have any deterioration that you've got, like say lower door panels or behind arches, something like that, rear quarters where it's been especially dirty and full of road film that you just can't seem to get back that hydrophobic behaviour, this should bring it back straight away. As soon as you've rinsed off and got rid of that product, you should be able to see it. It should be clearly visible, and then if that's what you're into, you can move on to a towel dry if that's what you're doing. So whether you want to use again something else over the top of that to do a bit of a drying aid and use that, that's entirely up to you. So I hope this has been useful. I'm just sharing a bit of it. This isn't a how-to, this is a how I and what I look for and how I like to maintain my vehicles. I'm not telling you what to do, but if you found it useful, leave us a like down below. Make sure to drop a comment if you are, if there are any specific questions and something I can maybe help you out with, or you want to get a bit of a discussion going. Subscribe to the channel for more things to come. This is actually, if you've got this far, first ever video, so I'm practicing with a whole setup and mic up here. Audio in here is absolutely terrible, so everything's new. So we're going to be doing some product reviews for things I've mentioned specifically, and then other new equipment I've been buying this year. We're going to probably talk through DI water setup, so detailing specific stuff. I've been doing some badge removal and additional machine polish and re-ceramic coating and stuff recently, so that's just up front. I've trialled that. What I'll be doing probably on my car is I'm thinking of removing the top lettering badging, and there's a couple of badges either side on the tailgate on my Range Rover, so get rid of absolutely everything and then re-machine polish and re-ceramic coat that. So I can talk through that process on a very small scale, what that sort of looks like. It's total DIY in terms of things you use. I'm using stuff like dental floss and a little small travel hairdryer, a little foldable one, just to sort of aid in those things. You could get away without the hairdryer, but again, makes it easier if you've got